All right then, everybody. So now we've got our second panel of the day. And for this, I'm going to be handing the hosting duties over to Johnnie Norton, who's the sales lead at UK at Mollie, the platform offering effortless payments and money management. And they also have a pretty Swiss stand upstairs as well. He's going to be joined today by Lauren, Alex, and Catherine. So give all of them a big round of applause, please.
Hello, hello. Welcome. Thank you for joining. I can see lots of familiar faces. So my name's Johnny. I'm from Mollie, and I'm the sales lead there. We've got this amazing panel with some incredible e-commerce leads from the industry, focusing on how they maintain being the customer champion and do that without dropping the ball. So wearing many, many different hats from all things, including payments, to marketing, to all things to do with the e-commerce channel. And I'll hand over to our panelists to introduce themselves. And they're also going to say what keeps them awake at night as they do. So, Catherine, over to you.
Hi, my name's Catherine Race. I'm the e-commerce manager for Numatic International. Company most of you probably not heard of, but what you hopefully have heard of is the best-selling vacuum cleaner in the UK. It's Henry. So we manufacture that down in Chards in the UK. And what keeps me up at night? It's probably internal credibility. We're a B2B company that has only in the last 6 years started selling direct to consumer. So we're adapting a lot of internal B2B processes to make them work for B2C. And I'm sharing a lot of resources with the wider business that's mostly commercial, big scrubber dryers, very different to Henry. That's probably my main one.
And I see you're wearing a Numatic 50 badge.
Yes, yeah, it's 55 now. Henry's 42.
Nice. Alex?
Hi everyone, so I'm Alex Hannaford, e-commerce and digital marketing manager for Brandon Hire Station, the exciting world of tool hire. Well, it is actually quite exciting now I've got into it. That's putting it down immediately, I didn't want to do that. Two things that keep me up at night. One is last night, personally, I'm recovering from a cough. So if I've been walking away from people today and look really rude, I apologise. But I've been in a corner over there, just trying not to breathe and just keep my throat clear. So first apologies. Business-wise, I'm really excited. I love my job. There's so much to do. And because we'll probably talk about it a bit later, because it's trade, B2B and B2C, there's just so much work to do, and it keeps you up at night. Saying I'm excited, staying up at night sounds weird as well. But I just am. There's so much work to do, and there's so many places that we can take the business. So, yeah, a bit simple, but that's my answer.
Lauren?
I'm Lauren Duncan, head of e-commerce at Philip Kingsley. We are a trichological hair and scalp brand. The thing that probably keeps me up at night is similar to what Catherine said. We've been through a huge transition as a business since COVID, where e-com was a really tiny part of the business 4 years ago, and now we're one of the biggest teams. And one of our challenges is still aligning the rest of the business to change their mindset on how to focus the other operational and supporting efforts to put e-commerce first now that we're the #1 revenue-driving channel for the business. So it's just that sort of evolution of that with how we work internally.
Nice. Okay, I think there's some things we can dive into there. Where I wanted to start and look at the prioritization piece. So being on the dark side, on the tech vendor piece, working for Mollie, we often hear about roadmaps. We hear about, it's not on our plans for this year. So I really want to focus on first up. What are your big priorities for this year? And who am I going to pick on first? Alex, go for it.
The B2B, Brandon Hire Station does B2B and B2C. B2B is probably 90% of the business, and there's a huge opportunity for us to pull B2B into the online side of things. But this is the first time I've worked for a big-ass company. I've worked for Jane Austen Museum. I worked for craft beer, luxury beds. This is the first time where you have multiple stakeholders sticking their nose in and wanting to do different things. So it's about managing that. But this is the first time the B2B opportunity with the B2B portal is I want to take it forward because it can really develop the online side of things and get a buy-in. The rest of the business wants it as well. We've got 130 branches. We've got over 1,000 people working from us. And if we can bring self-service onto online, it allows our reps to hand the customers over to the online service, and they can go out and find more customers. So I think, for me, I've only been in the company a year, but that's a clear thing where both opportunities are aligned, and that's always helpful. If I think something's a good idea and the boss man does, it tends to go a bit faster.
How do you get to that point of saying this is the strategy for the year? We want to focus on building that B2B piece out. What does the process look like?
I think a good part of the way is that we had the B2B idea in place already. So I was at the IRX a couple of weeks ago, a month ago, and one of the talks was how B2B and B2C are becoming more and more similar. So just because, we all expect Amazon service. When you're a bigger B2B customer, you still have stakeholders at the top. They still go on their phones, they still go online and interact with that service. More and more people now expect that all the way down the line, and it's even more stark when, I've found it a bit with the trade industry as well, but it gets even more stark when you try and introduce a customer onto B2B portal, onto the online shop, and it's something completely different to what they're used to. And that can build into things like email marketing, or PPC, or social media. The lines are so merged now, I don't think there's that stark difference anymore, and I think that's helped the buy-in, because the people at the top experience is exactly the same, and then when you show them the experience that the customers are going to have, you're not having to convince them as much anymore, so I think that helps a lot.
Sorry, I'm diving into this, but do you find that then you've gone from having like a different voice for B2B and B2C to actually that voice is just merging a bit? Yeah.
So it reminds me a bit of what's happening with SEO and the UX experience, the UX. What works on SEO is becoming more and more is what is good UX. Where 20 years ago, I just used to stuff a load of keywords on my crappy little football website and hope it would work. Like if I wanted an Arsenal page, I'd do Bergkamp and Wright and Highbury. Now you have to be a bit more detailed, but that's merging closer and closer, and that's why it's helped with the B2B and B2C. There's that expectation that there's that constant experience, because you still have, at each stage of the user admin and the user approach, everyone interacts. So if it's someone, a purchaser or credit control, or the brickie doing the work himself, they all have the experience of the B2C platforms, and they'll find it harder and harder to interact with your portal. So I'm rabbiting on.
No.
Sorry.
Catherine, where are you focusing your energy at the moment?
So one of our biggest is growth of our UK retail share. We're also big on brand control at the moment, as well as also a B2B portal. And that merging of, let's say, all B2B customers now are digital natives. We're using the same theme, or more or less the same theme, on our B2B site as we are our retail site. The tone of voice is a bit different because Henry's lovely and chatty and nice and friendly. And when you talk, that doesn't really work when you're talking about a 2.5-ton scrubber dryer. It's not kind of the same thing. But yeah, so the branding, where we haven't traded directly to consumer for the first 35 years of Henry's life, it's been a little bit the Wild West. So we're trying to set the gold standard. This is how you sell Henry, whether that's a direct or one of our retailers or an independent, and just kind of all bringing that into line.
And how did you get to this point? What did you say no to?
Not enough.
Not enough.
I think that's probably common in a lot of things here. It is a bit of a cliche, but we do tend to use will this make the boat go faster? So will this help our bottom line revenue? Will it help us with brand control? And then try and say no, depending on who's asked you to do what thing.
We'll definitely come into that decision-making process. Lauren, where are you focusing most of your energy at the moment?
So our top priorities this year has been very much around profitability, protecting our margin, and looking at our retention strategies. We've done a lot of work over the last couple of years since COVID, where we naturally fell into a very heavy acquisition period, and that's lasted us very well for the last 3 or 4 years. So now it's been about taking stock, seeing how we can become more efficient as a brand, which has cascaded down through the entire team, from how we operate on our paid media channels, where we've had to sort of look at more brand awareness campaigns to make our ROAS more efficient. We've said no to projects like a loyalty scheme in a bid to not upfront cost something like that, and instead gone down a subscription route, which naturally lends itself well to improving retention. So that's kind of where we're going with everything this year, and so far so good. But I think to get to that point, it's really been a lot of discussion, one with our finance teams and operational teams, to understand where can we make those opportunities, but also then working with our partners to look at how do we use new tech or existing tech to make efficiencies across the business.
How do you keep that balance between obviously driving increasing margin, driving costs down, but also ensuring that you're delivering that experience that's needed? It's not surely always a conversation about race to the bottom, right, in terms of cost. So how do you ensure that the fundamentals are still there and still delivering for your customers?
So I think when we're looking at retention, naturally we're talking about things that are going to keep customers continually coming back with us. So that lends itself pretty well from a development perspective with our website and those end-to-end journeys, because we're looking at, okay, we're good at getting somebody in for their first order. How do we keep them coming back? So it really keeps customer at the heart of those decisions, and always going back to, if we're doing this project, how does it impact the customer, but how does it impact us as a business? And I think it's finding those solutions or those projects that tick both the boxes. And if it's just something that's going to benefit the customer and impact margin too much, that's where we've had to go, this isn't one for this year, hence loyalty getting scrapped.
Quick question for anyone who wants to jump in on this one, but in that situation, you've got your finance team saying, yep, costs need to come down, but you're fighting for the customer. Aside from Trustpilot reviews or whatever it might be, how do you get that voice of the customer into that meeting room to ensure that it's not just a race to the bottom?
For me, it's about data. We work really, really closely with our customer care team. They have monthly reports that we can utilize to understand the number of contacts coming in for specific root causes. And we can always utilize that volume data and that root cause data to be like, this is an issue that is worth us investing, not only from a customer perspective, but also if we solve that problem, we're making our internal processes much more efficient, which makes that team more valuable to the business. And if you don't have the data to back it up, it is a much harder conversation. But I think with e-commerce as it is now, we have too many tools almost that have too much data that you don't know what to do with. So there's always something that we can pull to help build our arguments.
I don't want to ask a really cliched question, but what are those key points that you always find yourself going back to, other than just revenue, those data points that really, I guess, get what you want and what you need from the relevant teams? Are there any metrics that really stand out?
We use our Trust Score from Trustpilot quite a lot because it gives that quite holistic view of the entire service. And there are extra tools on there, sentiment analysis. So most of the reviews coming in on a particular day are about delivery. Right, well, let's go talk to the logistics manager, and he can beat his contractors over the head with the reviews, saying, look what you're doing to our review score. We are doing some work internally with a CRM system as well, so we're hoping to have some more data. But again, that filtering of what is actually meaningful is a really difficult one to do.
Have you got any examples of where that trust score has really helped you unlock a problem, or has driven an innovation in the business where you've gone, actually the customer led that?
We did have improvements with logistics from review base. It actually wasn't Trustpilot at that time, but our eBay score, where we'd had too many late deliveries over Black Friday, and we lost our top-rated seller badge, which we've now regained. But it gave our logistics teams something to go back to our carriers, saying, well, we need this, we need that, we need more staff. We've just done a big recruitment drive through the factory and our logistics teams.
Alex, do you have quite a vocal set of customers?
Yes. We're quite lucky in the business or I'm lucky actually. We've got 130 branches, 1,000 people. We've got lots of reps, so they're almost all getting reviews and feedback in at all times. Obviously, their problem is always the most important in the world, and have to solve it immediately. But it does mean that you get a wider view and a wider opinion stuff than I'd usually get, like does this site look pretty? Would I buy from it? You can have some core stuff. So the B2B opportunity is something I knew about already, but more and more the bigger customers, it's a requisite. It can be make or break now between some of these bigger deals with competitors. And then what I always think is a really lucky position in the digital side of things is you have fingers in all the pies. So you may have operations, you may have the call center, you may have sales, and they'll probably be quite siloed. Digital is usually a tiny part of all of those things. And you can, I think we'll probably come into it later about how relationship building is really important, but having issues where perhaps customers aren't getting problems resolved at branch level, call center level, that's an opportunity maybe for me to try a chatbot, put a chatbot online. Then regards finance, if you just have an automated chatbot, provide a case study of, let's say it does 2, 3, 4% of the queries, maybe then can we qualify for a chat person, just one person, 9 hours a day, and you build it up that. So that would be a specific case study for finance because it applies to them, but it helps us in branch, in call center, and across the business. So it can be, there's a lot of moaning at me, but then it can be positive as well.
And we often hear from like the vendor side that I think there are a lot more people involved in decisions now, and it takes longer for things to get signed off, and I think that feels fairly consistent. How do you really manage all of those different stakeholders? I feel the e-commerce role is definitely like a conduit for all of those different roles. It brings together a lot of different functions. What sort of processes, approaches do you have to, I guess, to really keep things moving and ensure that everyone's happy? Probably going to go to you, Lauren, on this one.
It's definitely a challenge, I think, especially with businesses like mine where you've got maybe departments who are not used to thinking about e-commerce and still have a lot of internal education in terms of the value and what we actually need from them. So we've actually put in things like e-com, like spotlight sessions, if you will, with those other departments to help them understand our day-to-day and what we would need from them to be successful to hit our objectives that year. But what we're also trying to do is with those other departments is be like, this is what we need from you, whether it's, we need you to work closer with our logistics partners in terms of our delivery offering. What do you need from us to do that? So that we understand the challenges and the pain points from their side, and that's where we can infill things like internal education with those teams or give them clearer requirements about what we actually need that outcome to be so that they can go and do their job to enable us to do ours better. So I think a lot of it is just taking the time to understand what are the challenges from the other departments about how they can better support you.
Do you find that education piece, I guess it's obviously important, but I guess helping those different functions understand the importance of e-commerce to the business? Do you find there's had to be a real mindset shift?
It's ongoing, but it's definitely helping, I think, people see the bigger picture. It's not just us banging on about something that we really want without the understanding. And so I think it's about getting them bought in on why we need that and why we need their support to achieve X, Y, or Z.
How do you find it, Catherine?
It's a lot of talking. It's a lot of going back and forth, trying to get that understanding piece, what we need from them. And I think also understanding the wider business objectives. Like another one I think we'll come on to, like where you're sharing resources and there's a big project that actually affects the rest of the 90% of the business and not your 10%, and that you might have to give up things for it. So there's an education on both sides, and trying to keep everybody informed is tricky. We've tried various different ways of doing it over the years, sort of meetings between departments, SharePoint sites, emails, and it's finding what works for sort of the people you're working with at the time, because we all learn differently, we all process information differently. Some people will remember it much better from a chat over a coffee, and some want an email that they can read and think about and mull over for a few days and then come back to you.
Curious if there's anyone in the room that's got a hack on how to really handle different stakeholders and to keep them updated, or is everyone struggling with it?
I think it's different with every mix, isn't it?
You've all got superstar teams, I'm sure. How do you know when to really leverage them, when to delegate? when to have the right champion working on the right project? What sort of steps do you follow to, I guess, to really get the best outcome for the business? And Alex, I'll go to you on this one.
Yeah, I've been lucky enough that my premise and in this industry I think it's more fortunate than others, is that I try and give everyone their little baby. So it's got their KPIs that they can, so whether it's social media or PPC or web revenue or, I don't know, email marketing, there's a standard maybe 40% of their day job that they'll be doing, maybe boring stuff. Then that 60% is stuff I want them to get excited about, like stuff they've created or stuff they can see direct results from the actions they've taken. So I've been lucky enough to do that, divide that in the team. I think we mentioned it previously, but like you then have to have that cover. You don't want to be a SPOF, single point of failure. So you have to have that trickle down effect where if they're off or ill or anything like that, that it's covered. And also I try to divide the team also almost into like a marketing and website, so whether it's 2 or 3 in each. So then they've got someone to bounce ideas off, because very well, again, like I said, with all the different parts of a big business, you can be really, really siloed, and it can be quite intimidating sometimes, especially online or digital e-commerce or marketing, when in a trade or B2B business, you're almost seen as sometimes like a bit of a leftover, bit on the side. We're trying to change that. But I think it's important to be able to take things to my line managers, the directors, and show that they've done this fantastic work. I believe me or not, but I don't take responsibility for it. I attach their name to it so they get the glory. But I think that's really important, so they can come and they're proud of something they do. And even if I can't get them a wage rise every day, that they get rewarded and they have that good feeling inside.
Yeah, definitely important to let the team shine. I think in any business you work in. Yeah, Lauren, what about on your side?
Quite similar, really. We've been lucky enough to grow our team from like 1 to 7 in the last 3 years. But we've been very mindful about how we've done that. So within my team, I've got 3 different verticals, and each team looks after web, email, and then paid media. So each team has got their own roles and responsibilities, but I think within those teams as well, it's about ensuring there's no bottlenecks between us and the rest of the business or between their own verticals as well. So it's making sure that everybody has got a really clear view on what they're responsible for, and that you just need to get, a nod of approval from your manager to execute something. And that kind of trickles all the way up, to our CEO as well. There's not a lot of top down, it's quite bottom up in terms of that responsibility and people having ownership over their own roles. So it's not really a case of delegating, it's just making sure that everybody's got clarity on what they're responsible for in terms of helping us achieve that overall objective, whether it's retention or profitability.
Once you get that right as well, you find that you don't delegate as much. They know that it's not their job to do, but they want to do it and it's part of their role. So you're not going, right, this is your job today, this is your job today. They come back to you saying, I've done this. You go, yeah, you're ahead of the game and it's ticked off. So I think that's
sort of find the natural fit, don't they, of stuff that goes with what they're already doing.
How do you keep that balance between obviously ensuring people are trained up and, I remember in my first job I sent a mail merge to 500 people and it said dear first name. And I'm sure we've all got similar stories, yeah. And how do you ensure that piece of upskilling people versus ensuring that the customer's standards are always met time after time?
For me, it's just, there always has to be some kind of progression for them. So ideally, when I first gave everyone their job, it's I want to give you an assistant one day, because obviously the job's progressed that much, you can do that. I know you can't do that every time. But it's just having whether it's further training that we can give them, whether the role will develop, because they've proved themselves at doing meta ads. Can we move them into Google PPC? If they've done email marketing, basic automations of abandoned cart or welcome series or browser abandonment, can we push them in other ways for trade and B2B and B2C? And it's increasing their knowledge base and showing that they're going to learn on the job. You're not just be doing the same job every single day. So give them some enjoyment out of it and know that they'll progress in their head and in their role going forward.
Just on that, when things are working and all of the team are firing, is it quite boring for you day to day? Do you like it when things go wrong a bit?
It's never boring.
Good.
But then it's like, then if you're sort of managing my team, then it's the people above who annoy me. So you've always got someone. So that's the balance, I think.
Who are you annoying?
No, I'm not going to say anything. Just in case anyone's recording this.
We're coming into sort of the last 5 minutes, so I'll keep things moving, and if we have time for any questions, feel free to raise your hand. But just looking at the process piece, what have you implemented to really streamline existing processes or processes you inherited? Could either be a new system, piece of technology, or just a way of working. Catherine, I'll go to you on this.
It is a work in progress for us. We're a team of 3 in a much larger business, so we are trying to streamline where we can. I'm very lucky that the 2 of my team were actually internal hires. I've got one who came from my customer care team, naturally puts the customer first, knows what they need, what they say they need, but they don't actually need, and what they were possibly going to need in the future. And the other member of my team came actually from our manufacturing plant, so knows the product inside out, which is great for when you're merchandising the site. And she notices that there's a logo on the top of the machine and there shouldn't be, which is fantastic for sort of consistency. But as for tools, we're fairly simplistic. We use Teams, we use the planner on Teams, lots of tasks on there. And we're just looking to do more. We do have Digital, which we are working on doing all the automations on and getting them set up. But yeah, a big work in progress for us.
And Lauren, you said you have a checklist that you use, and I think everyone will be coming up to you and asking for it after this, so don't sell it too much.
Yeah, so we, just to kind of make sure that we're prioritizing the right work, because there's a lot of things, and I don't know about anyone else, but our customer care team has the tendency to over-exaggerate how big issues are sometimes. So our first question always when they, raise an issue with us is, how many people is this actually affecting? When they say it's a huge issue, it can sometimes be 2 people. So we'll always make sure that we can actually recreate the issue ourselves, number one. But then we also look at sort of the impact and the effort for all of these things that come our way. So we just sort of t-shirt size, small, medium, large. What would be the impact of fixing this work? What would be the effort of fixing this work? And then who is it actually impacting? Is it impacting us internally? Is it impacting the customer? Or is it impacting both? And that kind of creates the priority for us in terms of how quickly or efficiently we need to sort of work on these projects, or if it's something that we just put on the backlog and we'll deal with it when we deal with it. But obviously, if it's something that affects checkout, then it always goes straight to our development team, who are here today, as an urgent one. But yeah, we just kind of have that mindset of, how big a problem is this? Is it impacting the customer? Then it obviously is treated much more of a priority for us to resolve.
Checkout always, after you.
So I think we all said yesterday when a lot means 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think checkout always evokes an emotional reaction as well, good or bad, because ultimately it's money coming into the business. So if things are working, people love it. If things go wrong, you're pretty quick to hear about it and need to fix it. Yeah, I think we're sort of running out of time. I wanted to ask one question, but I think before we do, anything from the audience that you'd like to ask our amazing panel?
Covered it all.
No questions?
Just that good.
Fine. So wanted to just spend the last couple of minutes looking at the future outlook. What trends are you seeing in the role for e-com leads? Anything you're seeing where the role is really evolving?
As I said earlier, it's just the merging of B2B and B2C for me. I know everyone, I'm not going to mention AI, personalization is a big issue. So there's no reason, I'm nowhere near it. So I want everyone to know that, my business isn't perfect by any means. I'm not showing that. We've got loads of stuff to sort out. But email marketing, PPC, social media, if you get personalization like that every day and you're used to it, so if you haven't got that across the board, especially on website or in the portal, it's even more stark, I think, rather than just having nothing. It's all pretty basic. If you get pulled in on a really good personalized email marketing campaign and you come to a website and it's just pretty generic. So I think that's something that we really want to target, and I think that's going to become more and more standard. So for me, and then the B2B and B2C, that it's such a merging of what you expect in a platform and an experience.
Catherine?
I think it's all going to be about choice for us. Choice in delivery, choice in payment, choice in product. and balancing that and prioritizing what people say that they want and what they actually want. The classic one at the moment is sustainability. Everybody says they want sustainability in their products, they want plastic-free packaging. When they actually comes to making that purchasing decision, it has no weight in that decision. So filtering those out, I think, is going to be a big one. Again, I've got a similar B2B project, which is taking up quite a bit of time. But yeah, it's going to be keeping those key targets in mind, which is a bit boring, really. But will it get you there? And if it won't, bin it.
Lauren?
I think there's a lot of trends at the moment in e-commerce about all this new exciting tech that is out there, which is exciting, but it's easy to get sidetracked with trying to do all of this new fun stuff when you don't have fundamentals in place. So for me, the trend is always going to go back to what are our actual customer pain points and how do we best rectify them, and using a lot more direct customer insight, which I think there was a talk on today. You know, asking your customers, what do you want? What do you need from us? What do you need us to do better? I think that's a trend that is less spoken about, but actually probably the most valuable one, to keep everything really focused on what your customers actually want and need from you, so that can feed your roadmap for the future year.
Nice. And I think that about takes us to time, but I'm just going to quickly go along the panel and part in words. Anyone, or any advice to somebody starting out in e-commerce, starting this transformation journey, other than don't do it? Is there anything you would advise?
I think it's getting out into things like this. Getting out of your bubble, whether that's your business, your tech, go and see what's out there, what other people are doing. And just learning a little about a lot and just getting involved in different conversations, learning what size of packaging will roll off DPD's conveyor belts so you don't have a product in that packaging. It's quite good when you like learning and like flitting between topics.
Validation that you're not alone. It's therapy coming to events like this. Alex?
For me, it's relationship building, especially larger companies. You're amazed, like, if you've got an account department of 60 people, they don't talk to each other as it is, let alone to you. So building relationships within the company and the wider community, and you just find out things like this where you meet such a range of people that you'd never interact with, and you can always pull something back. So from my point of view, it's just building relationships.
Lauren?
I'm going to repeat myself and just say, ask your customers what they want, who are they, what do they want from you, get data from your actual customers to shape everything you're doing.
I think that's a very good note to leave it on. Thank you for joining, and thank you to the amazing panel for their insights. I think it's time for a break.